we're going to do is just very slowly add our water to our flour. We'll add it bit by bit. It's always easier to add than it is to take away. So use your hands, use a spoon, just start bringing our water and our flour mixture together. And it will come quite quickly to a nice dough. Like I say, probably add your water in 3 stages. You can always add more. We don't want to add more flour. The more flour we add, the drier and tougher our dough is going to become. So that's why we add our water in stages rather than always going in with extra flour. And we can start to see that it's coming together into a nice dough. I'm not going to add any more water, and then we're just going to work that until it comes into a solid ball. So what was that? Less than a minute. Our dough's together. It's not sticking to the side. It's not a big stringy wet mess. It's a nice soft tacky dough, and all we're going to do, leave that in our bowl once it gets like that and push it to the side, and we're going to forget about that for the next 40 minutes while we get everything else done. And our wraps, because we're going to cook them in the pan rather than the oven, unlike bread, will take minutes. So I'm going to show you one more thing we're going to do. So that's job 1. Water and flour, a little bit of salt, mixed together into a dough and set our dough aside. Our next, we want to get either our salmon or our chicken. Who's brought salmon? 2, 3, excellent. The rest of you all in chicken. There's going to be a slight difference in the cooking times. The salmon's going to be slightly less. I've got chicken, so I'm going to show you how to do it with the chicken. And again, we're going to create as little mess as possible. So I'm going to try and do this all in an oven dish. One of the most important things for me when I'm cooking, especially at home, is we use the least amount of dishes as possible, because there's the less amount of washing up to do. And that's really important. So what I'm going to do, we're going to start off with kind of peppers. So I think I said 1/4 of a pepper each, or of each colour. And all we're going to do, we're going to make sure 1 with no seeds and 2 with none of what I kind of call the pith. So you know when you get an orange or citrus where you get that white bit, well, you've kind of got the same thing on a pepper, and we just want to hold our knife flat and make sure if there's any little white bits, we get rid of them. Always cut peppers, so this kind of, this shiny side down onto the board, and what we want to do is just have nice long strips of our pepper. So keep it quite fine, and it's going to cook. It's going to give a nice base. So our chicken or our salmon is going to kind of roast on top of our peppers. So as fine as we can, so we get lots of peppers. And again, the same, we want to keep them all the same size, so they'll cook roughly at the same time. If you get a bit like that, it can be a bit more difficult, so we can just snip that off. We're not going to waste that. That can go in, and then we can continue to slice it. So we've got our little oven-proof dishes. Our peppers are going to create the base of our oven-proof dish, and then we don't really need to do anything with our chicken or our fish. All we need to make sure is the piece of chicken or fish we've got is the right size to fit in there. So if it's slightly too big for the tin, cut it down to save kind of raw meat, touching raw meat, just as kind of little touching it as possible. And that's gonna the veg is gonna act like a little kind of base to stop the meat touching the silver tray and burning. And then all we've got is some Cajun seasoning, which you can buy as it is, or I think this is a kind of special secret recipe. I'm not quite sure what's in it, but it smells lovely. All we're going to do, got a little bowl here, I'm just going to mix this into a paste. So our Cajun seasoning, a little bit of our oil. We're going to mix this almost like a dressing, like a marinade, so we could mix this up the night before and marinate our chicken or our fish in it, but it'll be fine today. So mixing that to a nice paste so it runs off a spoon, and then we're just going to drizzle that over our chicken or our salmon and our veg, and then just using your spoon or your hands, just mix all of that around. Make sure there's some of our Cajun seasoning on our veg as well as our chicken and our salmon. Make sure our meat, whichever one we're using, is still on top. We've not really got raw chicken everywhere, so that's nice and easy. We've got our dough done in our bowl, put to the side. We've got our vegetable base with our chicken and our salmon and our Cajun seasoning. Now if you've got chicken, we're going to want to cook this at 180 for about 25 to 30 minutes. If you've got salmon, providing it's not frozen, it's going to want to be in the oven for about 15 to 20. So if you've got chicken, as soon as we go back, you've got your dough done, you've got your chicken and your veg done. If you've got chicken, straight into the oven as soon as it's done. If you've got salmon, we can have a little gap. So that's our first two tasks. Dough in the bowl, put to the side, our chicken and our salmon in our little tubs of that. Any questions? Are we all good with that? All know exactly what we're doing. So I'll float around and make sure everyone's all good as we're cooking. If you need anything, just give me a shout. So let's get to the stage where all our dough is in our bowl and done, and our chicken is in the oven. If it's salmon, we can leave it on the side just now. Right, so we're going to get on with the next two components of our dish, and then the stage after that is we'll start to cook and assemble the whole thing. So we're going to make two little kind of accompaniments to go with our chicken or salmon and our flatbreads. We're going to do a little slaw, so more of a kind of Asian style slaw, kind of raw vegetables, nice little dressing, and we're going to do a kind of smashed avocado, so a really simple kind of guacamole of sorts. So all we need for the first one, for the avocado, we've got an avocado, a green apple, and some lime. Little top trick is to roll the lime within your hands or roll it on the table, and it just kind of brings all the juice out. It makes it much easier to get the juice out. We're going to cut the lime in half. We'll leave that to the side just now, and then we're going to take a little bowl and we're going to grate our apple. So on the biggest side, we're just going to skin and all, everything. Just make sure that we stop when we start to get down to the core. We don't want grated apple core in our dish. So just grating our apple. It takes a little bit of pressure, and we can just grate our apple right down. That can all go into our bowl. So all of our apple into a little bowl or onto a plate, whichever we've got. Then our avocado. I think I only said half an avocado, or quarter, I can't remember. Quarter. Right, so all we need to do, we can just, if it's ripe enough, it should just squeeze out the skin, right? And then all we need to do, we can use a fork. Have I got a fork here? Yes, I have somewhere. A spoon will do. And all we want to do is just going to start mushing that avocado down, mixing it in with our apple, our squeeze of kind of our lime, and then we just want to mix all of that around until it starts to come to kind of it's not going to be a paste, but the avocado should break down and mix with the apple and the lime, and that's like a really kind of little cheaty, quick salsa to go with our spicy chicken. So we can mix all of that down and get that into that kind of little paste. So that's our avocado apple salsa done. Then we want to do our slaw. So the apple's fine, we're all putting it all together anyway, so we can just, whatever's left in our grater, we can give it a wee quick wipe off into our bowl or in with our slaw. We should have a carrot, a spring onion, and some red cabbage. So we can give our carrot a good wash. We don't have to peel it, it's going to be fine. Just make sure the skin's nice and clean and it's all washed. And again, like our apple, we can just grate our carrot, always on the biggest side. So all of our carrot, right down to the last bit, not wasting any. So our carrot can go into our bowl. And then just make sure your board's nice and clean. We're finished with the grater, so it can go to the side. All of our carrot into our bowl. Then we've got our spring onion. So all we want to do is going to take the kind of dirty outer leaf off. You'll find a bit where it will just peel off. Discard the outer skin. We can just snip off the bottom. And then what we want to do is we want to cut this on an angle. So it looks nice. Move this so we can all see. So it looks nice. And we get slightly bigger slices. So rather than just cutting down the way, we're going to turn it and we're going to cut on the angle. And you can go as big an angle as you want. We'll just put our spring onion on the angle. So we get these nice big slices that we wouldn't have got if we had just sliced it down the way. So our spring onion into our bowl with our carrot. I'm calling it a kale slaw. So we've got our kale as well. Just again, give it a wash. Just run a knife through it once or twice, just to cut it up so you're not getting huge big bits of kale when you're eating. And again, that goes in the bowl with our carrot, with our spring onion. And then we've got our red cabbage. So I don't want all of it. I think I said it was an 8th or a 16th, I can't remember. So again, what we want to do, we want to shred this as fine as we can. So always with our chef's knife, and just as fine, maybe a little bit slower, but as fine as we can. Always best is to throw that little end piece away rather than take the top of your finger off trying to cut it. And then our red cabbage into our bowl with our kale, our spring onion and our carrot. We can give that a little mix around. We should have some fresh coriander. We're going to keep some back as a little kind of garnish at the end. We don't have to pick all the stalks off it. There's a huge amount of flavour in the stalks, so it would seem senseless to waste all that flavour. So take our coriander, stalks and all, and kind of roll it up, squeeze it into a little ball, and then we can just, we don't want to chop it too many times when you're chopping fresh herbs. I know when I was at college and stuff, we used to chop it into this fine dust, and all the flavour ended up in the chopping board, and then we put the leaves into our dish, and it made no difference. So eat them nice and chunky. We want to be able to taste them. So our coriander leaves into our bowl. We're going to dress it with a little really simple dressing right at the last minute, but for now, just all our raw veg into our bowl, give it a mix around. So stage one, when we go back, we do our grated apple, and we mush up our avocado with a little bit of lime in one dish, and then we do our slaw in the other dish. That should take us no more than about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back, we'll roll out our dough, and by then our chicken should be starting to be ready now. So keep a wee eye on your chicken. Like I say, it needs about 25 minutes. So we all okay with those two steps? We all know what we're doing? Right, so let's go back, do our avocado salsa and our slaw. Right, so the next step, when we've got everything done, is really just the assembly. So we've got our slaw and our salsa done. We'll just dress our slaw. Right, salmon, whichever we've cooked, is ready and out. So then we come to our dough, and we're going to roll our dough out. Now we're going to use a little bit of flour on our bench, but we don't want it to look like it's a Christmas scene. We don't want flour everywhere and be thick and white powder. So all we want is just a little dusting. Can't really see it too well on these benches. Little dusting of flour, and we just want to start to roll our dough out. Now our dough should be nice and soft. It shouldn't be sticky. It's not sticking to my hands. It's not really sticking to the bench. We're going to divide this into 3, maybe 2 actually. We'll make them slightly bigger. So we'll divide our dough into 3, and we can roll them into little balls. It's much. We're obviously going to try and get our wraps to look something like a circle. So it's much easier to end up with a circle if we start off with something that looks like a circle. So we can spread it out with our hands, get it into roughly a circle, a little bit of flour on our bottom of our desk, a little bit of flour over our dough, and a tiny little bit of flour on our rolling pins. Now these are going to be handmade flatbreads, so if they're a little little kind of funny shapes, it's fine. We don't need them perfectly round. All we're going to do is just roll back and forward and pick it up and turn it. Back and forward, pick it up and turn it. So we're not constantly rolling, so we're not squeezing our dough into our board. We're just rolling it and turning it. If we feel it's starting to get a little bit sticky, we can flip it over, make sure we take it into some of the flour, tiny little bit of flour onto a rolling pin, and again we're just going to roll it back and forward, pick it up and turn it. So we want to do it, now your pans are slightly bigger than the one I'm going to use, so obviously we want to make sure that our flatbread isn't bigger than our pan. So that's about the right size for me. You can probably go a little bit bigger than this one. We can just make sure it's nice and even. And then what we want to do is get our pan really nice and hot. So probably up about nearly as high as our heat will go. And we want a totally dry pan, no oil whatsoever. We want to get our pan nice and hot. So our bread, they're not going to puff up too much. We've rolled them out with no yeast or anything in our dough, so they're not really going to puff up, but we will get nice little bubbles, and these are going to take about 3 or 4 minutes to cook. About 3 minutes on the first side and then about a minute on the second side. I want to make sure that everyone makes one. If you're really ahead of time, then you can roll out your second one, or you can just take a little bit of dough home and make it later. But if we've got time, we'll make 2. If not, then just make sure we've definitely got 1 bread ready. And we're just checking on our pan. We want to make sure it gets nice and hot, because if we put this into a cold pan, this isn't going to work. We want to get some colour on it. When they start to puff up, it's going to start to go nice and golden brown. That's not going to happen in a cold pan. So all we do is we get our pan nice and warm, and then very carefully our dough into our pan. Not much is going to happen throughout the first 2 or 3 minutes. It's just going to sit there cooking away. Eventually we'll start to see bubbles forming on this side of our bread. Once there's lots of bubbles, we can give it a little flip over and cook it for 1 more minute. So what we're going to do is we're all going to go back, we're going to divide our dough into 2, a little light dust and flour on our board, our dough and our rolling pin, and we're going to roll out 1 flatbread. If we've got lots of time, we're going to roll out 2. And then we're going to get them in our pan. So we want them to be in our pan by no later than 5 past on the clock. So if you're struggling for time, just make 1. If you're racing ahead, we can make 2, but let's make sure they're in our pan by 5 past. All good? Excellent, let's go and do that. Right in the middle, pride place.
But you dredge your fat.
Yeah, that's going to be ideal. You want the dividers go into 2, and we're going to roll it out. thin enough to fit in our pan. So, now we're at the stage where we want to assemble our dish and get it ready. So we've got our one wrap, which should still be warm, on the base of our plate. We're not going to wrap this up, we're going to kind of stack it on top. So we've got our apple avocado slaw, which can go on the bottom. But first of all, what we want to do is with our chicken, we're just going to take it out and we're just going to cut it, carve it nicely. Now if we've got fish, we don't even really need to carve it. The fish that's cooked perfectly should just break apart. Just use the back of the spoon to kind of flake our salmon. If we've got chicken, all we want to do is carve it into some nice slices. So we're just going to, again on the angle, just like we did with our spring onions, we're just going to carve our chicken. We're then going to use our avocado and apple salsa as the base of our dish. So a spoonful of our salsa on top of our warm flatbread. Then our carved chicken. We can just kind of arrange, fan out over the top of our salsa. We've got all these peppers, and obviously the juices came out the peppers. We've got our Cajun seasoning in there, and the juices came out the chicken. We don't want to waste that. That's all flavour. So some of our roasted peppers can go over the top, and then we're going to keep this. It's almost like a wee instant gravy, just to keep it all nice and moist. Some of our sauce around there, and then we've got our slaw. So it's all our raw veg, and we're going to make a dressing for it, and we're going to make the dressing in the bowl. And all it is a little tiny drizzle of our oil, a little splash of vinegar, and a little pinch of sugar. All we need to do is just a little dressing. It's just going to lightly glaze all our raw veg, so we get a nice little shine on it. I've not got loads of vinegar and oil in the bottom of the bowl. It's just enough to make it shine. Take a little bit of our slaw, make sure we get a little bit of all our different veggies in there, right on the top. If some falls down, we can just pick it up, and then maybe if we've got any left, just a few wee coriander leaves in and around, and that's really it. So that's our spiced chicken or salmon taco, avocado salsa and kale slaw. Really easy, really simple, and a great little dish to whip up in the house. We did it in kind of stages today, but if you were just kind of cooking it in one go, you could probably cook that quicker than you could order a takeaway. So maybe kind of food for thought.